Hi, this is a YouTube channel promoting freedom to survivors of domestic abuse, and the purpose of this video is just as an introductory video, just to talk about the content of the future videos that I'm going to be talking about. So all the different topics that are involved with the whole thing of domestic abuse. I want to state that I am a survivor of domestic abuse. I'm not somebody that claims to know everything. I've not got any degrees in it, but what I can say is that I've been through it and I've survived it. I'm still surviving it because it's incredible how long it takes to heal. I suffer with CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and that in itself is a huge subject which I am going to talk about on one of my videos. But basically I just want to raise awareness and an understanding of domestic abuse and the impacts that really does have on somebody's life. The purpose of the name Silencing the Songbird is, to me, just felt right as a name, because so many people, for starters, feel silenced, and it doesn't matter what stage you're at, if you're still with your abuser or if you've left your abuser. You could be going through the court process, you could be out of the court process, or possibly facing another court process, because they often take you back to court. But whatever stage you're at, there will have been times where you will feel silenced. Songbird, because you've got a voice, and people are starting to speak out more, but there's a lot of silencing going on. And the silencing it's not just from how the abuser is behaving, it's from other places as well, which I will also talk about. So the bird logo obviously is a symbol of freedom, and that's what I want to promote. I want to promote freedom to women that go through this, not just women, because I know there are men as well. So apologies in videos if I do say women. At times I know there are men that go through this as well, and it's absolutely awful. It really is. It's not gender specific at all. There are some nasty women out there too. But obviously from my perspective, being a female, you understand what I'm saying. So there's a lot of topics that I'm going to be talking about in all of the different videos, and it's going to take me so long to get through them all, but I have so much knowledge within me, and I'm just sitting here thinking, I've got all this, I need to get this knowledge out that I have, and maybe it will help other people. Maybe there's something that I will say that somebody needs to hear. Maybe it can help promote change. Who better to ask than someone who's been through it, I guess. So the topics I'm going to cover. So the first video, I'm basically going to start at the beginning. How does domestic abuse even happen? How does it even start? You know, because if you're out of that situation now, or maybe you're still in that situation, you're going to be sitting there thinking, how the hell has this happened to me? How the hell? Because it doesn't just happen overnight. You know, a woman would not stay with a man if you know, he was abusive from day dot. You know, you wouldn't. So that's going to be my first video. How does this even start, you know, and why would somebody stay? Because a lot of people just don't understand why would a woman stay in an abusive relationship? Oh, well, it can't be that bad. Right, well, I'm going to put some clarity on that, and explain why somebody stays, and obviously I can give some personal experience of that and insight. I'm also going to be talking about love bombing. Okay, so there's a love bombing phase, what that is, I'm going to explain that. Gaslighting, I'm going to go over what gaslighting is, I'm going to give some examples of that. Manipulation, intimidation. Okay, I'm going to go on a lot about narcissism, and how the narcissist, you know, how they silence their victims. Okay, because they literally make you feel like you're crazy, like you're losing the plot. So I'm going to go over many different types, different forms of abuse. So details on emotional abuse, you know, what is emotional abuse, the psychological abuse, not just the physical, you know, because I think a lot of people still seem to think domestic violence is just physical, but it's not. There is so much more than physical violence. You know, there's the emotional, the psychological, there's financial, there's so much control and coercion, and all those different forms, you know. It's insane. When you actually break it down and you go through all of it, you just think, wow, this is insane. But I'm also going to talk about, you know, how these abusers almost target victims, and talking about what an empath is and why this has happened to you, because you're going to be sitting there. I know I did, and I still do sometimes now. I think, why did he do this to me? What did I do so wrong? You know, because you're probably thinking, oh, I would have crawled on broken glass for this man, I would have done anything. Yeah, and I've been there, so I know that feeling, and you just think, why me? So I'm gonna do a video on those things as well. I'm also, and this is where I need to be a little bit careful, but I'm gonna talk about the reality of the current issues, and this is huge. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about police involvement, what happens, what the police do, what the police can do, what the police can't do. I'm going to be talking about the IDVA teams. They are independent domestic violence advisors, so I'm going to be talking about those. I am going to talk about MASH teams, social services, and I'm going to talk about CAFCAS and the family courts, the criminal courts, judges, fact findings, non-molestation orders, protective orders, undertakings, harassment, all of these things, Section 7 reports by social services. I'm going to cover all of these things because there is something very, very wrong going on, very wrong. And I know I'm not the first person to speak out about this. I know there are so many other women, you know, even solicitors. I'm going to be talking about solicitors, child arrangement orders, evidence, the law, vital legislation that people need to know, and it needs to be pulled out and put forward, because there is legislation that I have found and it needs to be voiced. But this is a pattern that, you know, I've been through, I've watched other people talk about, and something's wrong, because there is a lot conflicting with all these professionals, different advice given, what they can do, what they can't do. It's very difficult subject to talk about, but I am going to do video recordings on all of the different things. And I mean, one of the issues with the family courts, obviously, you know, judges have such this issue where sadly there are women that are lying about it, and it's just making it hell for people out there that do go through it. You know, there's different ends of the spectrum for the courts, because at one end there are women that are being abused, and you know, their ex-partners are absolutely evil. But then we also have the other end of the spectrum where women are lying, and there are innocent men and they've not done anything wrong, you know, and maybe they're going for child contact and the woman is actually the one who is very narcissistic and in control. So it is very, very difficult for the court system. So in no way do I want to just make it, oh, the family courts are bad. You know, they're not bad, but I think something is going wrong. Something's not right within the system. So I'm going to be talking, you know, individually, and I mean the same with CAFCAS and social services. I'm not here to say all social services are awful, not at all, because there are some very, very good social workers out there, you know, that really do want the best for the children, and they want to support mums and dads, you know. But obviously there are some other things that aren't quite right and not going wrong. So I'm going to be talking about those. I'm going to be talking, God, what else am I going to be talking about? How to flee, what's the best way to flee? Bear with me, because I've actually had to write a huge list because it's just so... yeah, when it comes to fleeing, there's a lot of issues with that, especially with housing. So I'm going to be talking about all of that. And yeah, getting back to what I was saying, you know, there doesn't seem to be almost justice. There's no justice happening at the moment, and I don't think protection is consistently being put in place for I'm going to say women, but women and children who are at risk, and it worries me. It really concerns me. But I'm going to be talking about the impacts of all of this and how it affects a person for a long, long time after the abuse. I cannot put into words personally how this has affected me in one sentence. You just can't do it. It's beyond words. You just can't do it. But I'm going to be talking about the impacts on children. This isn't being recognised. I'm seeing a pattern where I don't think this is being recognised. There's a lot of focus on parental rights, but my question is, where is the focus on the child's best interest, especially if abuse is going to continue through a child arrangements? You know, that's incredible to even comprehend. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about the impacts of children and what that's really like. You know, I have 2 children. I have one now approaching her teens and one that's a toddler, so I kind of have a little experience there of different ages and how this does impact them. I'm also going to talk about the education system and schools. I'm going to include that, and basically a video also on what's going wrong in society. I think there's a lot going wrong in society. There's an incredible amount going wrong with the way that children are being brought up, and we need to prevent future perpetrators of domestic abuse, and that's got to start at home, and that's got to start within school, within the bullying system that you know, that needs reviewing. So I'm also going to talk about doctors and the importance of counsellors and therapy, and why that is important, why that is vital in recovery, and why you need to help yourself on that one. But also I'm going to talk about the effects of domestic violence on the brain, because studies have been done now that show domestic abuse does impact the brain and how that functions, and it actually causes damage. And you think, you know, if you've come out of an abusive situation and you're left with a court order where you have to do child contact, and your ex-partner is continuing to abuse you through that, could be in very subtle ways, but it's still abuse, and that's still going to impact your life, and it's going to make your heart sink, because if you don't follow that court order, you're going to be in contempt. So anyway, that's a big topic that I am going to go into more on another video. But basically, yeah, I'm going to talk about the effects of domestic violence. I'm going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, what life is like after domestic violence, the depression, the anxiety, triggers, so many triggers, fear, avoidance, the problems with sleep, your confidence, self-esteem, being in survival mode, hypervigilance, all of those things, even suicide, because I know so many people will have been in dark places where you just think, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. And I've been there, and it's not a good place to be, and it's hard to pull yourself out of. But I'm going to talk about, you know, the reality of rebuilding your life, and the difficulties with that, the trauma, and how to look for those red flags in the future, for future relationships, because when the time is right, maybe you will meet somebody new, but you need to be aware of the red flags, because you know, there is a pattern where someone will go from one abusive relationship to another. So I think it's important to talk about the red flags, but also, you know, I mentioned earlier, so, you know, what an empath is and why you, and I think it's important also to do a topic on going back perhaps to childhood or something that may have happened, as to why, you know, you are the way that you are, you know, and that's not blaming the abuse on you. It's not your fault. Nobody deserves that. But I know for me, why a reason, say, I could have been targeted, you know, and I know many other people, survivors, feel this way, is that you might be the sort of person that, you know, you want to people please, you want to help other people, you bend over backwards. You know, you might be the sort of person that puts other people's needs before your own. Well, a narcissist loves that. They absolutely love that. They feed off that. So you know, but you have to be very, very careful, and there are so many red flags. So I'm going to talk about that, but I do want to restate that you can't blame yourself for what's happened, and it's not your fault. There is no excuse, there is no justification for somebody putting their hands on you in that way, or somebody trying to take control of you, somebody taking your money, somebody taking your car keys, or somebody calling you names. All of those things, you know, that's not love, and that's not a relationship, and that's not right, and it's certainly not your fault. So I'm going to be talking about those things as well. Sorry, I've made a list because there's too many things. So I want to cover who my videos are for. So my videos are for anyone who needs support or awareness. So domestic violence survivors, but also any professionals, because I do feel that awareness needs raising, and professionals do need educating on, you know, what this really is, because there is a bigger picture to domestic violence that people are missing. People are totally not getting it at all. So I hope as I go through my videos I can connect the dots, and people will see what it truly is and what it truly does to somebody. And you know, if any of my videos reach anyone in government, then great. You know, make some changes for us all, please. My videos are not for abusers. They're not for any trolls. So, you know, if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say it. Just go away. We're not interested. And, you know, I am respectful to people, and I expect people to be respectful to me. I am still healing myself, and I hope I find healing through doing this as well. But I do want to state the information that I will be providing will be from my personal experience of what I know and what I've learned and what I've been through during, you know, my process of going through the whole situation and surviving domestic abuse. It's been hard. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, and I'm still struggling, you know. And I've been, you know, I left my abuser a couple of years ago. I fled. I am tied into a court order because of child contact. So I've got a lot that I can say, and I hope that it supports people, because I don't want people to feel like they're alone. And I think you do feel like you're alone, you know, because other people just don't get it. They do not get it. I mean, other trauma victims, they will understand on some level. They will understand why you have triggers, but people in general, they just don't understand, you know. And it might be that you left your ex-abuser a couple of years ago, and people think, oh well, she's not been with him for a couple of years now, well, she must be fine, why does she keep going on about it? No, you don't. It's not something that you just get over, and I think that's very clear when it comes to telling between somebody that is telling the truth and somebody that's lying, because somebody telling the truth, they have these effects for such a long time afterwards. It impacts their whole life. It's insane. Somebody who's lying, well, they'll just get on with their life. They'll go back to work. You know, they're not gonna have these issues. So that's one telltale sign. Another telltale sign is that these issues keep returning back to court. So if some woman's just being spiteful and vindictive and it goes to court, it's done with, it's dealt with, or she might just moan about her ex-partner or whatever, but she'll probably move on and get on with her life. But with a real victim, hate that word, survivor, the abuse continues through child contact, and they just don't stop. They just do not stop. And so quite often it returns back to court and back to court, and the reason it's going back to court is because it's not being addressed in the first place. So that's a big way to, you know, to tell whether or not somebody's lying. So that's what I think anyway. But yeah, so basically I'm going to do these videos. I'm going to blow up the system, so to speak, and expose the reality of what is going on, because this is dangerous. And I want to say that, like, I can't put into words. This is a dangerous situation for, you know, women. I say women, but obviously I know there are men out there that have suffered as well. But women and children are being put at further risk on a daily basis, you know, and there has been some horrendous things happened as a result. So I'm gonna talk more about those things in future videos. But we keep being silenced. We keep being silenced, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. I mean, for myself personally, I know I have to be careful when I'm doing these videos, because there are certain things that I can't disclose, obviously personal information regarding my own court hearings, because I will be in contempt of court myself. So I have to be careful, but I know what I can say and I know what I can't say, and I will word my information very carefully. But I will state again, the things that I am talking about are patterns that seem to be occurring, that most domestic violence survivors will identify with. And again, the videos are to raise awareness and understanding, and yeah, just promote change. So I'll try and upload my first video as soon as I can, and yeah, feel free to comment and support my page. Thank you.